Pinfield. Sitting next to me are Kevin, Daniel, and David of Love and Rockets. It's great to have you guys here. I'm really excited that you came down to do the show. I mean, being 3/4 of Bauhaus, such an influential band with yourselves and Peter, and just, I'm sure you've seen over the years how many bands you've influenced and people that have taken that direction that you guys had started a long time ago. Speaking of direction, with Love and Rockets, I mean, we know about Tones on Tail, but with Love and Rockets, when that really started out, I kind of got the feeling that at the end of the Bauhaus and the last album, Burning from the Inside, songs like Slice of Life was already going in the direction you were going as a three-piece.
Yeah, it was basically the start of this group, really. I mean, the chemistry was completely different when Peter wasn't there because he had pneumonia and stuff, so the first couple of weeks he wasn't there, so we started to do backing tracks. But we already had about 4 or 5 numbers that were ready to go, you know, like we had the words all sorted and everything, so we just went in and started, we thought, well, we might as well finish the whole thing off, you know, so we had, like, by the time Pete got down there was 2 or 3 tracks that were finished, so it was the catalyst for this group, really.
And I remember, it's funny, because thinking back to that time, I remember us getting together and this different chemistry happening without Peter in the room, and we were sort of, we were, I think, aware of it, and just sort of looking at each other thinking, there's something going on here, and it's really interesting. It was very odd because we knew Peter was coming down and it would completely change again. And I think he found it a bit strange as well because we'd progressed so much and we'd recorded so much and got on and done it, you know, without him, that he felt like a bit of an appendage, you know, when he came down.
Right, it was a different energy than...
But the atmosphere was different. It was a different type of
and we felt more comfortable,
mood.
I think,
it
at
was,
that time. Because at that time, Bauhaus, it was very edgy. It was always edgy, but it was very edgy at that time.
But this was more open. We could do what we wanted within the group rather than just being confined with playing guitar or bass or drums or, you know, particularly vocals and stuff, which is something that we wanted to do, you know, sing our own songs and stuff, you know, right. Rather than, you know, we all used to write within the group, but it was very much a format, which was fine. It worked really well, but a group like that can only last so long. It sort of has to, it burns bright, but only for a certain amount of time.
So this is what
it's very similar to, like, I relate it to something like Velvet Underground.
Right.
It's very much like that. You can see there's personality clashes within that band where they can't work
because
together.
They're so intense and so powerful.
Yeah.
You know, Love and Rockets, the name, we're going to actually come back to that in a minute. We'll talk about how the name came about and everything else. We'll talk more about the new record and all the other records. But right now, we've got a brand new video from a Boston singer-songwriter named Tracy Bonham. The title of her debut album is The Burden of Being Upright. Is based on a Hernandez comic called Love and Rockets. I'm a big comic book fan myself, an enthusiast. Love Alan Moore, like Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and newer things like, you know, Hellboy, Mad Men, Milk and Cheese, and all this other stuff, Rat Bastard. Tell me a bit about where you came up for that. Were you comic book fans? Were you a comic enthusiast?
I'm a comic book fan, and, you know, going right back to when I was a kid. And
Take 2.
yeah, when I was a little kid, I was into comics. And then when I was a bigger kid, I was still into comics, and I carried on being into comics.
That's good to hear.
And you mentioned Alan there, he's a friend of mine.
Alan Moore's your friend?
Goes back a long way, yeah.
Wow.
And we just completed a project called The Moon and Serpent, a Grand Egyptian Theatre of Marvels, and it's available on CD on Cleopatra. And it's a documentation of a one-off performance that Alan and I did in London. There's another guy who contributed to the music on it, Tim Perkins, but it's an interesting little piece of work. And it's primarily concerned with magic, but go and buy it and it all will be revealed.
Yeah, it's great. The comic fans out there will be really excited about that. Who love Alan Moore and all that stuff. But it was a great name for the band. It was really cool. Anyway, I want to say we're going to come back with the band. It is, right? Love and Rockets. It is a good one as well. We'll be talking more with Love and Rockets. Stick around because we've got a brand new video coming up from Rocket from the Crypt and the latest from Dishwalla. But first, here's a look at the top 10 singles on alternative radio this week. FA. I remember the band Sweet, of course, which is another British band, had a song called Sweet FA, and years ago an album called Sweet Fanny Adams in Britain, not here.
That was the Sweet, was it?
It was the Sweet, yeah.
I didn't know that.
But you guys probably didn't know that because it's more of an English folklore kind of an English term, Sweet FA, right?
Yeah.
Well, sweet. Well, Fanny Adams is sort of a bit of a euphemism for the real phrase,
Which is?
you're going to bleep me on. Which
Okay,
is sweet cool.
Really, that's what it is.
Yes.
And where did you get the name? I mean, why did you decide to use that name for the record?
Well, it's one of the tracks on the title track of the album.
Right, the first song.
I think what it is because of all the... I can't actually remember specifically, but I would imagine it's because at the time when we were recording the record, we went through a lot of problems with the fire at Rick Rubin's house and everything, and we were using this cover with the burnt guitar, which was the only thing that was left remaining from the fire. And it sort of symbolized the whole album, the fact that we were like against the wall financially and everything. Everything was like, as far as we knew, we had nothing coming to us. We were nothing. So it's sort of
everywhere to go.
It's sort of, although that song was written a couple of years before, when we started working in San Francisco, it sort of suggested. It seemed like the perfect title for the album. Right. You know, when we were looking through the list of possible names for the record, that one seemed to cover the whole thing. It seems like
it means sweet, nothing. You know.
Right.
Well, it means zilch, zero.
Right. Like nothing. And at that point, you felt that way after the fire in the house you're recording. You literally jumped out windows basically to survive that fire, right?
Yeah, we didn't have the money dried up completely as well. So we ended up recording about 4 tracks on the album in like somebody's converted garage as well, which is and it's quite funny because a lot of the stuff was done. 2/3 of the record was recorded in whatever $2,000 a day studio, and then this last one you're talking, it was $300
for 4 songs almost, right?
It was like, sorry, it was $2,000 a day in normal studios, and then this studio was like $300 a day, including the engineer, and it was like a big happy family in this house at Silver Lake.
And it was magic anyway. It worked out being great. It being a great thing for you guys.
Yeah, it got us back to bass drums and guitar, like as in a real drum kit. You know,
we're all playing together at the same time.
Right, on the last album, you did everything separately. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. Right now, we're going to play a video off their 1986 album Express. You know, the one with Kundalini Express, Could Be Sunshine. What a great record it was. And here's a video for All in My Mind on 120 Minutes, Lovin' Rockets. Show here in New York, 2 of them at Roseland. We're smoking. Anyway, I'm Matt Pinfield, and I'm here with Kevin, Daniel, and David of Lovin' Rockets. And we started to touch on before the break the idea of the difference between Hot Trip to Heaven and the new record, Sweet FA, and the recording of that. Hot Trip to Heaven, the technique you used, you did a lot of stuff separately. You want to tell me a little bit about that, Kevin?
Yeah, well, we hadn't seen each other basically for almost a couple of years, so we decided to just all come together, have nothing prepared, and so we all arrived in England, and the use of a sequencer and time codes seemed to suit the whole idea, because then you can always go back and change things, and we used a lot of samples and just worked very spontaneously. So that album was pretty much a lot of electronic stuff going on, whereas the way this Sweet FA ended up, we started to play as a band, which we hadn't done since '89, hadn't been in the same room playing at the same time together. So that was really exciting and refreshing for us.
Yeah, I mean, you were going more for an ambient kind of trance thing at the time, which at the time, I mean, I guess, especially in England, was a really big thing as well, and maybe it was pretty influential. You were hearing a lot.
When we went in, we didn't actually know what we were. The whole idea was it to be blank, no words, no music, so it would be a complete experiment. But I do remember we'd gone to see The Orb a few nights before we'd started and stuff like that, so that sort of really made us focus on a particular style of music. I think that's where it came in.
I mean, like in 1989, when we stopped touring, we were very aware of like acid house. If you listen to like something like Bike Dance, which was one of the cuts on
bonus
EP,
tracks on Motorcycle,
you can hear it there in that, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what was happening, and we were really particularly Kevin and myself, immersing ourselves in that whole scene, you know, and just soaking it all up. And so that had to come out.
Had to come out some way.
I remember going to something with you, and we were just in the middle of like this rave, and they were just saying, Kev, when we get together, we've got to really take this on board and put our own angle on it, you know.
Right, and you did.
Remember that? So,
It's been a while. We're going to be coming back in just a minute with these guys from Lovin' Rockets, and right after the break, we'll show you their new video from the Sweet FA album for Sweet Lover Hangover, so don't go away. I'm Matt Pinfield, and this is Kevin Haskins, Daniel Ash, and David J. of Love and Rockets. And it's good to have you guys here. Brand new album out called Sweet F.A., and a great single, which we're going to see the video for in a couple minutes, called Sweet Lover Hangover. And the songwriting technique, as you said, you changed. This time you got back together, and we're all recording. And that crazy fire in that Rick Rubin house, the studio, which people might know as well from the Chili Peppers, Blood Sugar Sex Magic. That was recorded there. It's the kind of thing. Burnt to the Ground, as we mentioned before, that album cover, that guitar is the only thing that was left. How about the songs that you were doing in there? Did you actually scrap the material you're working on too?
A lot of people think that. No, the tapes were all safe and sound somewhere else, probably at American or Beggars Banquet in London or whatever.
Okay.
The main thing that we lost was just our equipment, backline gear.
And almost your lives too, because it was pretty hairy,
Yeah,
right?
apart from that, yeah.
And we were recording some stuff onto that, and the track Glittering Darkness.
No, it was Ritual Radio.
Ritual Radio, sorry. Yeah. For some reason, the night before the fire, I just decided to pick the DAT up and take it home with me for safekeeping. I don't know why. It was like maybe a little bit of a premonition. Yeah. So that survived. Otherwise, we wouldn't have.
And it was a great track. You know, it's just this spontaneous thing that happened, which does once in a blue moon. You just sort of get together and not plan anything. It's a bit like Hot Trip, and this thing just came out. It was like 18 minutes long, and it's just. We loved it, you know, a bit of inspiration.
And just one microphone in the middle, a little tiny mic in the middle.
You can hear us shouting out chord changes to each other. You know,
we just wrote it as we went along.
And it's on the EP. It's on Glittering Darkness.
Is that EP kind of like a tribute to your Bauhaus years? I've read that, where it's kind of like, at least lyrically.
Well, no. I mean, there was talk at one point of us doing something for a Bauhaus compilation.
The tribute.
Yeah, and we were going to put, yeah, that was the catalyst. That's the thing that sort of started that track off. So we were focused in on doing that number, and it was actually, the words were sort of taken from another song, which was an outtake from this album, Sweet F.A.
Okay.
And I'd sampled an original Bauhaus track.
Which track was it?
Can't remember.
Kick in the Eye, like a teacher Nick. There's so many great ones.
We'll have to come back.
We'll find out. Actually, you know what? We're gonna have to say goodbye now, unfortunately. But I wanted to thank you guys for coming by. Tell you the record's great, and you're touring. I mean, I'll see you guys tonight. I'm sure people will see you out on the road as well. Before we say goodbye, though, we're gonna play the first video off of Sweet F.A. for Sweet Lover Hangover. Some great sonic stuff going on with that fuzz bass, by the way, in this track. Thanks again for coming by, guys.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Good luck with the tour, and check out the new album, Sweet F.A. Here's Love and Rockets, Sweet Lover Hangover on 120 Minutes.